more news to get to. Dan Graziano is back with us. Walk us through some of the headlines, Graz, in the coaching carousel this week. Let's start down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville letting go of head coach Doug Pederson yesterday after 3 years. Made the playoffs his first year, second round of the playoffs actually, but after a hot start last year, things fell apart and never got put back together this year. Jaguars have done us the favor of publicly announcing their list of interview candidates. You see a lot of familiar names, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, a lot of offensive coordinators, as well as defensive coordinators like Aaron Glenn, and also former Jets head coach Robert Saleh. So the Jaguars getting started on their search. The day before, actually, Sunday, the Patriots fired head coach Jerod Mayo after only 1 year as head coach with that organization. They've already started interviewing people. A lot of people around the league are connecting Mike Vrabel there as a possible replacement. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame, has a relationship with ownership. We'll see. Don't be surprised if they take a swing at Ben Johnson and if he's also interested in them. And the Giants announcing yesterday, Giants owner John Mara announcing yesterday that head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Schoen will return for 2025. Mara is sick and tired of the coaching carousel. He wants to stand behind his guys and make sure that they know he believes in them and can build it back the right way. Obviously, the Giants are going to have to address the quarterback position this offseason in a significant way if Daboll and Schoen are planning to turn this thing around in East Rutherford.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. And as for the Bears and their opening, quarterback Caleb Williams was asked about what he'll need to see from his next head coach.
Just challenge me, whether it's, pulling me aside, whether it's, and saying whatever, or, having talks consistently, or maybe not, or maybe having a list of things that, we want to accomplish, myself first. That helps the team. And I don't have an issue with being challenged. I don't have an issue with, speaking truth between the coach and I, or whoever it may be. Whichever way that happens, whichever way it shapes is the way it goes.
Roz, what do we know about the Bears head coaching search at this point?
Casting a wide net, the search will be led by GM Ryan Poles and team president Kevin Warren. At this point, they are interviewing or planning to interview a number of people. The most interesting name that came up yesterday, obviously, is that of Dallas Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. The Bears have asked permission to interview McCarthy. His contract expires tomorrow, but the Cowboys have another week of exclusive rights to negotiate a new deal with him if they want to. So the McCarthy situation should come to a head one way or another within the next week, whether he gets a new deal with the Cowboys or he generates significant interest elsewhere, places such as Chicago. But yeah, one of the names on the Bears list, one of the prominent names on the Bears list, and they will interview other people as well.
Yeah, it did speed up that timeline potentially, maybe past what Jerry Jones had hoped it would be. We'll see. All right, let's go to Tennessee next, where after finishing with the worst record in the NFL, the team made a move in the front office, firing GM Ran Carthon. As Adam Schefter pointed out, Carthon spent 2 years in Tennessee with two different head coaches, still has 4 years remaining on his contract. A new Titans GM will make the #1 overall pick, worth remembering that as well. So, Roz, what more can you tell us about this decision?
So the power in the organization will lie with a man named Chad Brinker, who is the president of football operations. He's been there 2 years, 13 years before that with the Green Bay Packers. And Brinker, in a statement to the team's website today, talked about what they're looking for in the next GM. He said they want somebody with a scouting background, somebody with extensive experience scouting college players for the pros, setting a draft board. So you can see what the issue is here in Tennessee. They believe the new GM's job will be to evaluate talent and put a roster together that way. But Brinker will have the final say over the roster, regardless of who they bring in as general manager.
Interesting. Thinking about Tennessee, I feel like when we talk about whether these jobs, coaches, GMs, are attractive, we need to focus more on the stability of ownership, because just looking at everything that's happened there over the last few years, the word that comes to mind is erratic. Going back to 2022, they get embarrassed by A.J. Brown on TV, so they fire Amy Adams-Strunk, the owner, fires John Robinson. You think Mike Vrabel's got more power, but then they pair him with Carthon, and then they fire Mike Vrabel. And then you think, okay, well, now Ran Carthon's got the juice, and this is a rebuild, and they must know that it's a rebuild, right? Well, no, because they didn't get enough wins to her liking, so she fired Ran Carthon. And that's not to say that I agreed with all of his signings and draft picks necessarily, but it seems to me that ownership in Tennessee, one, has a misapprehension of who their roster is, the fact that they're rebuilding, and a deep lack of patience. She's just pressing the red button over and over and over. And if I'm on the outside looking at this and looking at that job, Dan, I would go with a lot of hesitation because the ownership is what remains.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because you brought up when they fired Vrabel. And remember at the time they were saying there were philosophical differences between Carthon and Vrabel and what they wanted to do, what he wanted to do. I guess the question is, like, what is the philosophy?
Exactly. What is the long-term vision for this franchise? Because it's apparent that this is an owner who seems motivated by short-termism.
Go ahead, Graz.
Yeah, Mina's right that it seemed like it should have been a rebuild, but the Titans actually spent a pretty fair amount of money in free agency last year. Remember, I mean, they traded for L'Jarius Sneed, gave him a contract. They signed Calvin Ridley. So they were expecting to be competitive, and they very much were not. And, you know, I think a big factor here is Will Levis, who was drafted high in the second round 2 years ago with the hope that he could be a franchise quarterback, has not panned out. And it feels like Ran Carthon has borne the brunt of that and some of these other decisions. The Titans had higher hopes for this year than, oh, we'll have the #1 pick.